The outcast in the alley rain fell hard on the broken streets, turning dust into mud and hope into something colder. Lyra sat with her back pressed against the brick wall, her knees hugged tightly to her chest, her alien eyes, wide and silver, flickered with fear as every passing shadow made her flinch. She wore only a thin, ragged shawl. Everything else had been taken or lost. She was alone now, more alone than she had ever been. Not long ago, she had a partner. A life, even dreams. Now she was a widow, cast out, treated as if her sorrow was a disease. Her own people had turned their backs, whispering about bad omens and unlucky stars. No one dared to touch her, help her, or even look her in the eye. They left food scraps on the ground and walked away quickly. Sometimes she wished they would just leave her in the darkness and forget. But even darkness has memories, and every night her mind replayed the last moments with her mate. She remembered his gentle hands, the way he smiled even when times were hard. She remembered the way he promised her, "You'll never be alone." No matter what, he lied. Now, every promise felt like a cruel joke. The city was not kind to outsiders, especially not to widows like her. Humans and aliens moved together in the crowded markets. But everyone kept their distance from Lyra. Some children would point and giggle, their parents pulling them away with frightened faces. Even among the desperate and hungry, Lyra was treated as invisible. One evening, as the sun dipped low and rain poured harder, a group of humans hurried by. They glanced at her, some with pity, some with disgust, none with kindness. Lyra's body shivered uncontrollably. Her thin arms not enough to fight the cold. She tried to make herself smaller. Wishing to disappear, suddenly, footsteps stopped in front of her. She did not dare to look up. A warm voice, soft but clear, spoke through the sound of rain. "Hey, are you all right?" It was a human voice, a male's, gentle and strangely calm. Lyra lifted her head slowly, expecting to see the same look of fear or hatred. Instead, she met eyes that held no judgment, just concern. He was young, maybe late 20s, with tired eyes and a faded jacket. Rain had soaked his hair, but he didn't seem to care. He crouched down, keeping a careful distance but not moving away. "My name's Ethan," he said quietly. "What's yours?" Lyra said nothing, expecting him to give up and leave, but Ethan did not move. He took off his jacket and held it out to her. "Please, take it," he said. "You look cold." Lyra hesitated, her hands trembling. Was this a trick? Would he laugh at her? But Ethan's eyes did not waver. The cold was too much, so she finally reached out, her fingers brushing against the jacket's warmth. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice barely a sound. Ethan smiled, the first real smile Lyra had seen in what felt like forever. He noticed her shivering and said, "You shouldn't be out here tonight. There's a small shelter not far from here. You'll be safe there." Lyra's eyes widened. She had heard about human shelters, but she was afraid, would they let her in? Would they hurt her? Ethan seemed to read her thoughts. He stood up and offered a hand. "You don't have to be alone tonight. Trust me. I'll walk with you." For a moment, Lyra's mind screamed for her to refuse, to run, but her body was weak, and the world was colder than her fear. She took his hand, feeling the warmth in his palm. Ethan led her through the wet streets, always keeping to the light. He spoke little, just enough to let her know she wasn't a burden. They passed empty shops, dark alleys, and silent strangers. At one point, a group of rowdy youths blocked their way. Ethan stepped in front of Lyra, shielding her with his body. The boys sneered but quickly moved aside after a hard glare from Ethan. Lyra felt something she hadn't felt in months. Safe. They reached a small building at the edge of the city, a faded sign reading "Sanctuary Shelter." Ethan knocked, and a tired woman opened the door. He spoke with her quietly, then turned back to Lyra. "It's okay?" "Come inside," he said. "No one will hurt you here." Lyra took a shaky breath and stepped over the threshold. For the first time since her mate died, she felt hope flicker in her heart. But as she entered, she felt eyes on her from the shadows. Not everyone inside welcomed strangers, and outside, in the rain, another figure watched Ethan and Lyra enter, a cold, calculating gaze. Ethan offered Lyra a seat and placed a cup of warm tea in her hands. "You're safe now," he promised, but Lyra knew safety was just an illusion. Somewhere out there, danger waited. She just didn't know how close it already was. Shelter. Of strangers inside the shelter, the air was thick with the smell of old blankets and wet clothes. Dim lights cast long shadows on cracked walls, and every sound seemed to echo a little too loudly. Lyra followed Ethan in, holding his jacket tightly around her. A few faces looked up from battered chairs and worn Matsalians and humans both. But all tired, no one smiled, no one welcomed her. The tired woman at the door gave Ethan a sharp look, her eyes flicking to Lyra, and then away. "Another stray, Ethan," she muttered, voice cold but not cruel. Ethan just nodded. "She's alone. Mrs. Brooks. She won't cause trouble." Mrs. Brooks grunted and waved them inside. "You're responsible for her then." Lyra tried to make herself invisible as she stepped into the main room. She could feel the whispers even though no one spoke. Some aliens, scales shimmering, curled tighter around themselves. Others, with small horns or fur, turned away as if afraid her bad luck might be catching. A human boy stared openly, his eyes wide, until his mother pulled him close and hissed a warning in his ear. Lyra found a spot by the wall, hugging her knees and watching the storm outside through a small, dirty window. Ethan knelt beside her, pressing a steaming mug of something warm. Into her hands, she sniffed it cautiously, her stomach rumbling. "It's just soup," Ethan said softly. "You need it. You'll feel better." Lyra drank slowly, feeling the warmth spread through her empty body. For a few moments, she closed her eyes and let herself imagine a world where kindness was normal. But the silence of the shelter was heavy, too heavy. Whispers rose behind her back. "That's the widow, isn't it?" someone said. "Bad luck follows her." Another voice whispered. Lyra's hands shook, but she did not look up. Ethan noticed, frowning. He stood and faced the room, his voice calm but strong. "She's just someone who needs help. Like the rest of us. Leave her be." No one argued, but the room seemed to grow colder. Ethan sat with Lyra, careful not to crowd her. He didn't ask questions, just sipped his own soup and waited. After a while, Lyra dared to speak, her voice barely more than a whisper. "Why do you help me? You don't even know me." Ethan looked at her with gentle eyes. "Because you're alone." "I know what that's like." His answer made her feel seen, but it also frightened her. She wanted to trust him, but her heart was still trapped in old fears. Hours passed, the storm outside growing fiercer, thunder rolling through the city. One by one, the shelter's guests drifted off to sleep, pulling blankets tight. Mrs. Brooks handed Lyra a thin blanket. Not unkind, but not warm either. Lyra curled up on her mat, listening to the wind howling against the windows. She tried to sleep, but every noise outside made her flinch. Somewhere in the night, she woke to a quiet conversation near the door. Ethan was talking to Mrs. Brooks, his voice tense. "There's been trouble lately, people looking for someone." "Someone matching her description," Mrs. Brooks whispered. "You think she's in danger?" Ethan asked, worry in his tone. "Maybe. You should watch her." "And watch yourself," Mrs. Brooks warned. Lyra's heart hammered in her chest. She pressed herself tighter to the wall, wishing she could disappear suddenly. A loud crash shattered the quiet glass, breaking near the front of the shelter. Everyone jerked awake, some screaming. Mrs. Brooks rushed to the door, Ethan close behind. Lyra stayed frozen. fear rooting her in place through the shattered window. Rain poured in, and a rock lay on the floor. Tied to it was a piece of dirty cloth, and scrawled on it were words in a language only Lyra and a few others would understand. You were warned. Leave or pay. The message was meant for her. Some guests muttered. Fear and anger rising. She brought this trouble here. A scaly alien hissed, glaring at Lyra. We should send her away before we all get hurt. Another agreed, Ethan. Stepped between them and Lyra. Nobody's going anywhere tonight. The storm is too strong. We're all staying put, but the fear in the room was alive now. Lyra shrank smaller. Wishing she could melt into the wall, Ethan sat with her, his voice low. Don't worry. Lyra, I won't let anything happen to you, but she knew trouble. Was only getting closer as lightning flashed outside. Lyra wondered if she would ever be safe. Or if trusting this human would bring him the same bad luck that followed her. As the storm raged, someone outside watched the shelter waiting. And Lyra's story was just beginning. The unseen enemy mourning came slowly to the shelter, with gray light creeping through the clouds and the broken window. Lyra had barely slept. Every noise outside making her jump. The threat from last night was still fresh in everyone's mind. No one spoke to her, but every glance felt sharp as a blade. She saw Ethan talking quietly to Mrs. Brooks, concern on his face. Others cleaned up the shattered glass, moving carefully around Lyra, like she was a curse waiting to strike. Even the children wouldn't look her way now. Ethan brought her a plate of food. Sitting beside her as if nothing had changed. Did you sleep? He asked softly. Lyra just shook her head, too tired to pretend. He placed his hand over hers. Steady and warm. You're safe here, he said. But his eyes told a different story. He was worried too. Just then, a knock came at the shelter. Door, hard and loud. Mrs. Brooks hesitated, glancing at Ethan. Then opened the door a crack. A tall figure stood outside, rain dripping from a black coat. His eyes were hidden behind mirrored lenses, and his voice was low and sharp. I'm looking for someone, he said, an alien woman's silver eyes. Seen her? Mrs. Brooks lied. Nobody like that here. Sorry, the man's lips curled in a strange smile. Let me know if she turns up. Wouldn't want trouble. In your shelter, he turned and walked off, but Lyra saw him glance back, memorizing every detail. Mrs. Brooks shut the door, locking it tight. She turned to Ethan. He'll be back. You need to get her out before he finds a reason to come inside. Ethan's jaw tightened, but he nodded. He helped Lyra pack the little she had: his jacket, a blanket, and a bit of bread. We can't stay here. It's not safe anymore, Ethan said. Lyra looked down, shame and fear battling inside her. I'm sorry, Ethan. I didn't mean to bring this to you. Maybe I should go alone. But Ethan shook his head. No, you're not alone. I promised to help you, and I meant it. As they slipped out the back door, the rain was still falling. The city looked different, now hostile, cold, as if the shadows themselves were watching. They kept to side streets, moving quietly. Avoiding cameras and crowded places, Lyra felt every eye on her, imagined every whisper was about her. They reached an abandoned train station where Ethan knew an old friend might give them shelter. The friend, a grizzled mechanic named Jocks, frowned when he saw Lyra. She's trouble, Ethan. I can smell it, Jocks said, but he let them stay. Ethan gave Lyra a safe spot to rest behind a pile of boxes. For a while, it was quiet, the only sound of the hum of old machines and distant thunder. But Lyra could not relax. She told Ethan more about her past, her voice trembling. My mate. He was part of something big. He tried to expose corruption in the Alien Council. When he died, they blamed me. I said I was cursed, dangerous. Ethan listened, anger flashing in his eyes. They shouldn't do that to you. he said. Lyra shook her head. No one stands. Up to them? Not aliens, not humans. It's easier to be afraid. Suddenly, Jocks hurried in, whispering, "Someone's looking for you, too." Black coat, mirrored glasses. He's outside asking questions. Ethan and Lyra froze. "We can't stay here," Ethan said quickly. They slipped out the back, using the train tracks as a hidden path. The city felt smaller now, the walls closing. In with every step, Lyra's heart pounded as they ducked into another alley. There, a message was painted in bold red letters on the wall. "Leave or die." Ethan stared at it, jaw clenched. They're serious. "Whoever is after you." Not giving up, Lyra's hands shook and she blinked away tears. "I should just run. Maybe if I leave, you'll be safe." But Ethan caught her arm, his grip gentle but firm. "We run together, or not at all." As dusk fell, they found shelter in an old, half-collapsed warehouse. Ethan made a small fire, and they ate there. Bread in silence, outside the city buzzed with distant sirens and the shouts of patrols. Lyra looked into the flames, her voice shaking. "I'm tired of running, Ethan. I wish someone could see. I'm not a curse." Ethan watched her for a long moment, then said, "You're not a curse, Lyra. You're the bravest person I know. And I'll prove to everyone that you're worth saving." But as they settled in for the night, neither saw the shadow moving outside the warehouse. The man in the black coat was closer than they knew. He watched the flicker of firelight from the darkness. His orders were clear: Lyra must not survive the week. And as Ethan and Lyra drifted into uneasy sleep, danger was closer than ever. The unseen enemy was patient. And the night was far from over. Worth beyond survival, morning in. The warehouse was cold and gray. Lyra woke to the soft sound of Ethan stirring the dying embers of their small fire. His hands were careful, movements quiet. He did not want to wake the city or draw attention. Last night's fear lingered, heavy as a blanket, but outside, the world was already moving. Through a crack in the broken window, Lyra watched people hurry past, humans and aliens, each lost in their own troubles. No one noticed the warehouse, or so it seemed. Ethan handed her a piece of bread, his eyes tired but kind. "We'll find a way through this," he said. Lyra tried to believe him, holding the warmth of his words close. But doubts crawled inside her heart. Could there be a life for her beyond just running and surviving? After breakfast, Ethan asked, "Can you help me today? Know someone who needs help moving supplies. It's small work, but it'll get us some credits for food." Lyra nodded, eager for a chance to be useful. The two left the warehouse through a back alley, careful to avoid busy streets. Jocks's friend was a gruff old woman named Mags, with wiry hair and sharp eyes. She looked Lyra up and down, frowning, but said nothing. Ethan explained, "She's strong and careful. You'll get more done with her help," Mags grunted, handing Lyra a heavy box. As they worked, Lyra noticed how everyone in the market stared at her. She kept her head down, focusing on the work: lifting, sorting, carrying crates from one dusty stall to another. Mags began to soften, seeing Lyra's effort and quiet strength. By midday, sweat trickled down Lyra's neck, and her arms ached, but for the first time in weeks, she felt almost normal. She was not a curse, not an outcast, just someone trying to help. As she carried a box past a food stand, a sudden commotion erupted. A small human child darted into the busy street, chasing a bouncing ball. A heavy transport vehicle roared toward him, its brakes screeching. People screamed, but no one moved. Lyra didn't think she ran, her alien legs moving faster than any humans. She scooped the boy up just as the truck sped past, its side mirror brushing her shoulder. She landed hard on the sidewalk. The child safe in her arms, a hush fell over the market. The boy's mother rushed over, eyes wide with fear and shock. She snatched her son from Lyra's arms, backing away. "It's her," someone in the crowd shouted, "That's the alien widow. The cursed one." The mother's face twisted in terror. "Get away from us." Other voices rose, angry and frightened. "She brought danger here. Call the authorities." Within moments, the crowd had turned what should have been. Thanks became accusation. Ethan fought through the crowd, grabbing Lyra's arm. "We have to go." Now he pulled her away as people closed in, some throwing scraps and shouting curses. Lyra ran, her heart hammering. She heard someone say, "Tell the patrols." She nearly killed that boy. Ethan and Lyra ducked into a narrow alley, breathless. Ethan squeezed her shoulder. "You saved him. They just can't see it." Lyra's hands shook. "Maybe I really am bad luck. Maybe I should have stayed hidden." Ethan looked her in the eyes, firm and steady. "You did the right thing. Never doubt that. Don't let their fear become your truth." They slipped from alley to alley, making their way back toward the warehouse. But as they neared the building, they saw two patrol vehicles parked out front. Patrol officers, human. An alien both stood by the door, scanning the area. Ethan whispered, "They're looking for you." Someone must have reported what happened. Lyra shrank back, feeling the world closing in. For a long moment, they hid in the shadows, not knowing where to go. Ethan chewed his lip, thinking hard. We can't go back to Jocks, not now. Too risky. He led Lyra deeper into the city, away from the patrols. The buildings grew older. Streets quieter. They found a hidden spot in an abandoned playground. A slide bent and rusted. Swings creaking in the wind. Lyra sat on the cold ground, staring at her trembling hands. Ethan knelt beside her. "I know it hurts. I know you want to give up. But you can't." He took her hands in his, steadying them. "You have worth, Lyra. Not because of what others say, but because of who you are." She swallowed hard, wanting to believe him. In the distance, sirens wailed, a reminder that trouble was always near. Ethan glanced at the fading sky. "We'll rest here for now. Tonight, we move again. I promise I won't let them take you." Lyra looked at him, hope flickering like a tiny flame. For the first time, she dared to ask, "Why do you help me?" Ethan smiled, a tired but true smile, "Because someone saw my worth when I felt worthless. It saved me. I want to do the same for you." As the sun set behind ruined towers, Lyra closed her eyes. Maybe, just maybe, she could survive. Maybe one day she could live. But as night crept in, the echo of the crowd's anger followed her. The authorities would not stop, and somewhere in the city, her unseen enemy watched and waited. Tomorrow would bring new dangers, but for now, should head Ethan and a glimmer of hope. Betrayal and rescue. The night was cold, and every small sound seemed loud in the abandoned playground. Ethan kept watch while Lyra tried to rest on the hard ground, her eyes opening with every rustle. Neither of them really slept. The city was full of distant sirens and the low hum of patrol vehicles searching the empty streets. Ethan whispered, "We'll leave at sunrise. Find a safer place outside the city." Lyra nodded, but fear gnawed at her heart. No place had ever been truly safe for her. As dawn broke, they slipped through back alleys, Ethan guiding them quietly. They kept their heads down, hoping not to attract attention, but something felt wrong. Lyra noticed more patrols than usual, blocking streets and checking faces. She heard her name whispered among them, the alien widow. Dangerous, bad omen. Someone must have told the authorities where to find her. They hurried toward a bridge, hoping to escape the main roads. Suddenly, a patrol stopped them, blocking their way. Two officers stepped forward, one human, one alien, both in dark uniforms. "Papers, please," the human officer demanded. Ethan tensed, trying to hide Lyra behind him. "We're just passing through," he said. "No trouble here, but..." The alien officer looked at Lyra and sneered. "We've been looking for you." He said, "You're coming with us." Lyra tried to run, but more officers appeared surrounding them. Ethan was pushed to the ground, and Lyra was grabbed roughly. "No!" Ethan shouted, struggling, but Lyra was dragged away. Her cries lost in the noise of the waking city. She was thrown into the back of a patrol vehicle. The doors slammed shut. Ethan's face was the last thing she saw, his eyes full of helpless anger. At the patrol station, Lyra was pulled into a cold, bare room. A bright light shone in her eyes, making her blink. 3 officers questioned her, their voices sharp and accusing. "You're a danger to the city," one said. "You bring bad luck wherever you go," another added. Lyra tried to explain, her voice shaking. "I only wanted to help. I saved a child. I never wanted any trouble." But they didn't listen. They called her names: outcast, a curse, troublemaker. She felt small and powerless, lost in a sea of voices that hated her. Hours passed. The questions never stopped. Lyra's head ached, her heart heavy with hopelessness. Finally, she was left alone in the small cell. She pressed her forehead against the cold wall, tears sliding down her cheeks. For the first time in weeks, she wondered if this was how her story would end, locked away, forgotten. But then, quiet voice called her name through the bars. "Lyra." "It's me." She turned in shock, recognizing the voice. It was Fen. An old friend from her home world, thin, nervous alien with bright blue eyes. Fen slipped her a piece of paper through the bars. "I heard what happened. Ethan sent me. There's still a chance, but you have to trust me." Lyra nodded, clutching the paper. Fen explained the plan in whispers. "Tonight, the guard will change. I'll distract them near the main door. Ethan will be waiting in the alley. When you hear the siren, run, don't look back." Hope flared in Lyra's chest. She waited. Every second stretching into hours. Night fell, and the patrol station grew quieter. Suddenly, an alarm blared loud and sharp. Guards rushed past her cell, shouting and confused. Lyra heard Fen's voice in the chaos, then the sound of fighting. Her cell door was unlocked. Hethon stood there, breathless. "Come on, we don't have much time," he urged. Lyra ran with him through dark hallways, Fen close behind. They burst out a side door into the rain-soaked alley. Ethan pulled Lyra close. "Are you okay? Did they hurt you?" Lyra shook her head, too overwhelmed to speak. They didn't stop running until they reached an old warehouse at the city's edge. Inside, Lyra collapsed to the floor, breathing hard. Fen locked the door behind them, peeking through a crack. "We don't have long," Fen said. "They'll look for you everywhere now." Ethan knelt by Lyra, wiping the rain from her face. "I told you I'd come for you," he said softly. For the first time in days, Lyra smiled. Small, tired smile, but real. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice trembling. Ethan squeezed her hand. "We're not done yet. Tomorrow, we'll find a way to clear your name." Fen handed them both food and blankets as the 3 huddled together. The storm outside seemed far away. For now, Lyra was safe, rescued by the only people who believed she was worth saving. But the city would not forget, and their enemies would be watching. Lyra lay awake, listening to the rain, hope flickering inside her like a tiny light. Tomorrow, they would fight back together, and maybe, just maybe, she could find her place in the world. The truth comes out. The warehouse was quiet in the early morning. Rain tapped on the tin roof, and every sound seemed to echo. Lyra sat wrapped in a blanket, staring at the faded light through a broken window. Her mind replayed the escape again and again, Fen's warning, Ethan's hand pulling her through the shadows. She was safer now, but the city felt more dangerous than ever. Ethan sat nearby, his face set with worry. He watched the street from a crack in the wall, waiting for any sign of trouble. Fen paced the floor, eyes darting. "We can't stay here long," Fen whispered. "They'll be searching every corner for you." Lyra nodded, her heart beating fast. "I can't keep running," she said softly. I need to clear my name. Or they'll never stop. Ethan looked at her, steady and strong. Then we find proof. Whatever they accused you of, we show. Them, it was a lie. Fen hesitated, chewing his lip. There is something, he said, your mate. Before he died, he hid evidence. Documents, recordings, all about the council's crimes. He told me to keep them safe. I was afraid. So, I ran, but I still have them. Lyra's eyes widened with hope and fear. Where? Fen swallowed, glancing out the window, there in an old lockbox under the city bridge. But we have to be careful, the patrols know about it. If they see us there, we're finished. Ethan stood up, determined. Then we move at night. Fen, you lead. Lyra, stay close to me. They waited as the day dragged on, the storm outside keeping most people indoors. But as dusk crept in, the rain eased and the city's lights flickered to life. The three of them slipped out into the evening shadows, sticking to side streets and quiet paths. They made their way toward the old bridge. The city felt alive, with danger every footstep echoing off stone and metal. Patrol vehicles moved slowly along the main road. Searchlights sweeping the alleys, Lyra's heart hammered with every close call. Fen led them down a narrow staircase under the bridge where water dripped from pipes. In the gloom, he knelt and pried up a loose brick, revealing a small metal box. He handed it to Lyra, his hands shaking. Everything you need is in there. Proof that you're innocent, and that the council lied. Before Lyra could open it, heavy footsteps pounded above them. Voices shouted patrols, closer than. Before Ethan grabbed Lyra's arm, we need to go now. They ran along the river, ducking under old arches, trying to lose the patrol. But suddenly, floodlights flashed, and officers blocked their way. Among them stood the man in the black coat, the same enemy from before. He smiled coldly, going somewhere. Ethan stepped in front of Lyra and Fen, blocking the man's path. We have proof she's innocent. Ethan called out, let us speak to the council. But the man shook his head. No one cares about your proof. Orders are orders. She's a danger, and she won't leave this place alive. He signaled, and the officers moved in. Lyra's hands trembled as she clutched the lockbox, fear threatening to crush her. Ethan whispered, trust me. When I say run, run to the left. Fen looked at Lyra, his voice urgent. You must get the box to the news office on Main Street. If the public sees what's inside, the council can't hide anymore. The patrol officers advanced, and Ethan, suddenly, kicked a piece of wood, sending up a spray of mud and water. Run, Lyra. He shouted. Lyra bolted to the left. Fen right behind her. Ethan fought two officers. Buying them time, the man in the black coat snarled, chasing Lyra and Fen through the darkness. They raced up a narrow stairway, bursting out onto the busy main road. Cars honked, people shouted. But Lyra didn't stop. She clutched the box tightly, never letting go. Fen pointed, breathless. There. The news office. But the man was close. His footsteps thundered behind them. They pushed through the crowd, stumbling into the bright lobby of the news building. A startled receptionist looked up. Please, we need help. Lyra gasped. This box, show it to everyone. The man in the black coat stormed in, but security blocked his path. Fen thrust the lockbox onto the desk, yelling, the truth is inside. She's not a criminal. The news crew rushed forward, unlocking the box and pulling out documents and data chips within minutes. Screens across the city flashed with images, evidence of the council's lies, the truth about Lyra's mate, and Lyra's own innocence. The crowd outside grew as people watched the screens. The patrol officers backed away, unsure. Ethan, bruised but smiling, found Lyra and Fen in the lobby. You did it, he whispered, pulling Lyra into a hug, but his cheers rose from the crowd. The man in the black coat slipped away, his plans. Ruined, but his eyes burning with hatred, Lyra was free for now. But the fight for her new life was not over yet. Ethan squeezed her hand, hope shining in his eyes. "Now, the world knows the truth," he said. Lyra smiled, feeling the weight on her chest finally lift. For the first time in a long time, she felt truly seen. But she knew her story was not finished yet. New beginning, the city was waking to a new day. But for Lyra, everything felt different. She stood at the window of the news office, sunlight finally breaking through the clouds. For so long, she had lived in darkness, hiding from faces full of hate and fear. Now crowds filled the streets below, not to curse her, but to cheer. People read the news on their screens, the truth flashing everywhere, council lies exposed, innocent alien widow cleared. Lyra pressed her hand to the glass, feeling the warmth. Fen sat nearby, still shaking from the night's events, but he managed a weak smile. "You did it, Lyra," he said, voice soft. "You changed everything." Lyra shook her head gently. "No, Fen, we did it together. I never could have survived alone." Ethan entered the room, carrying 3 cups of hot tea. His eyes were tired, but brighter than before. He handed Lyra a cup, his smile quiet and proud. "People are already talking about helping you find a real home," he said. "They want to meet the alien widow who stood up for herself and for the truth." For the first time in months, Lyra did not feel like a shadow. She felt seen, known, and maybe even respected. Still, a piece of her heart trembled with doubt. Could the world truly change overnight? The news crew came in, asking for one last interview. Lyra nodded, sitting with Ethan and Fen on either side. The camera lights felt warm instead of blinding. The reporter smiled kindly. "What will you do now that you're free?" Lyra thought about it, her silver eyes bright with new hope. "I want to help others like me," she said. "No one should be left alone just because they're different." Ethan squeezed her hand, and Fen nodded. The reporter asked, "Do you forgive those who hurt you?" Lyra closed her eyes for a moment, remembering the pain, the cold, the hunger. She remembered the faces that turned away and the voices that called her cursed. But she also remembered Ethan's kindness, Fen's courage, and her own strength. "I forgive them," she said softly, "because if I don't, to me I can never be truly free." Outside, the city's people watched the interview. Some wept, some cheered, and some simply stared. A few of Lyra's own kind from her old community stood at the edge of the crowd. Ashamed, but curious, slowly, a little girl lay in, with silver eyes like Lyra, stepped forward. She held out a single blue flower, hands shaking. Lyra saw her through the window and smiled. Tears filling her eyes, she hurried downstairs, Ethan and Fen following. When she reached the street, the girl handed her the flower. "My mother said, you're a hero now," the child whispered. Lyra knelt down, taking the flower gently. "Thank you," she said. But real heroes are people who care for each other around them. People from both worlds, human and alien, gathered. No one threw stones, no one shouted curses. A woman in the crowd called out, "We're sorry, Lyra. We judged you before. We knew the truth." Others nodded, their eyes full of regret. Lyra stood tall, holding the flower to her heart. "I am not a curse," she said, loud enough for everyone to hear. "I am a survivor, and I will help others survive too." Ethan put his arm around her shoulders. Smiling with pride, Fen grinned, relief on his face. The city had changed, not just for Lyra, but for everyone who ever felt alone or unwanted. In the days that followed, Lyra worked with Ethan and Fen to build a shelter for lost and lonely souls. They welcomed anyone, alien or human, who needed food, safety, or just a kind word. Lyra's name became a symbol of hope in the city. People came to her not out of fear, but for advice and comfort. She still missed her mate, But now his memory was a light, not a weight. One evening, Ethan found her standing on the rooftop, watching the sun set over a city no longer full of hate. He stood beside her, silent for a while. Finally, he said, "You gave them hope, Lyra, and you gave me a reason to believe in good again." Lyra turned to him, her eyes gentle. "Maybe that's why we meet the people we do," she replied, "not to be saved, but so we can save each other." As darkness fell, the lights of the shelter glowed warm in the night. People gathered inside, sharing stories, laughter, and dreams. Lyra smiled, knowing her journey was far from over, but she would never face it alone again. And as the city rested, a new chapter for all had just begun. Hope had returned, and with it, the promise of a better tomorrow.